Thank you for joining us today. It is my great privilege to introduce you to Mia Harvey. Mia, would you tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. My name is Mia Harvey. I am a believer. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I have two wonderful little boys, Elijah and Harrison. I'm married to Zach. We've been married for 6 years now. One thing that I am passionate about is creating awareness and support for those who have been impacted by domestic violence.
If you don't mind my saying, Mia, I would love to tell people that you were one of my young people. I was your youth pastor for several years.
Yes.
I was raised in a pastor's home. I'm married to a pastor, and I am a pastor. I've experienced hurt through criticism, rejection, and the way people have treated my children. We will be discussing these subjects and so much more right here on Silently Bleeding, Finding Hope for the Pastor's Wife.
Mia, if you could just briefly tell me, what is domestic violence?
Sure. So domestic violence is the use of intentional, emotional, psychological, sexual, financial, or physical force by a family member or intimate partner to control another.
Okay. Now, I just read yesterday that 1 in 3 women are domestically violated. Is that true?
Domestic violence are one of those things that are, is highly unreported. And so, yes, I would say that is definitely a close statistic. But like I said, a lot of times we have people who don't report it. But it definitely does happen a lot often than people may think it doesn't or does happen.
And is domestic violence, does that pretty much only happen like in a lower income area?
No, we've found, definitely domestic violence is something that impacts, it doesn't matter, religion, race, sexual orientation, household income. It doesn't matter. So no, it does not just impact lower income families. We've had a lot of times where there have been people who have been in two dual income homes. We've had where there's people who are in very higher income levels who have been impacted by domestic violence as well.
Even people of influence, right?
Yes, it definitely so. You've seen a lot of times where you have celebrities who have come out after divorces or who have been through domestic violence situations. We have seen people who are well known in the community. It doesn't necessarily have to be celebrities, but who have been impacted by domestic violence.
Mia, do you think this happens in pastors' homes, domestic violence in a pastor's home?
Oh, yes. I've definitely seen it happen. We've had a lot of survivors who have come out about how they've been married to pastors and they were victims of domestic violence. And so it definitely does happen. It happens a lot of places. And like I said, just because someone's a pastor doesn't mean that they're not an abuser as well. So we definitely have seen that. One of the other things that I found very surprising when we would go talk to churches, we had a lot of churches who didn't even want us to leave information about domestic violence. They would be like very dismissive, saying that doesn't happen in our church. You can't leave any materials here. And so that was definitely heartbreaking because the church is kind of a sense of community. It's a place for resources. A lot of places that's a central location of where they get information from. It's a basis of where they have a lot of friends or where they interact with people. A lot of times we have churches that have started like connect groups or Bible studies. And so a lot of their social interaction is, at church. And so, it's very disheartening when you have people who you trust to care about the community and issues, who don't want to No, that doesn't happen here. And in your heart, and as a person who's doing the work, you do know that it does happen there. And so for someone to be dismissive about that, you definitely, it can be heartbreaking. But yes, it does happen in pastors' homes.
Wow. I do know that's true. I've spoken with a few pastors' wives or ex-pastors' wives recently that have shared their heartbreaking stories. And it's just so, just like I said, heartbreaking to think this goes on even in a pastor's home sometimes. I know there are many wonderful pastors and pastors' wives out there, but there are those that are suffering at the hands of their pastor husband.
Right. Of course. And I mean, and it's of various reasons of why, just like any other victim of domestic violence. But I think sometimes we think maybe it doesn't happen in certain places, or, you know, we expect people who have a certain title in the community. We kind of just, you know, I think inherently you just think, well, that will never happen. It's the same thing as sometimes when we see people who are child molesters, they're coaches, they're it's not the weird guy in the van with no windows. Like it's a person that's in a community, that's a coach, that's a teacher, that's, you know, somewhere where there's a lot of access. So it's kind of the same theory behind those who are abusers as well. It's the charming person. You know, a lot of times when I have gone out to speak, I'll say, how many of y'all have been on a first date and the guy was like, hey, I just want to let you know, I may eventually hit you. You know, like that never happens. Like, so they're charming, they buy the gifts, they're, you know, like really nice. So it's just definitely one, like, how do you identify those red flags, and just know that it could be anyone.
That's so true. I remember a first date I had with a guy was my last date. In fact, we didn't even go through with the date. We stopped by, he needed to get oil for his truck. And I said, that's fine. He goes in, gets the oil, comes back, puts it in his truck, and his truck wouldn't start. He starts kicking the truck and hitting the truck and just yelling, I can't believe this stupid truck. And I was inside the truck praying, oh God, let this truck start so I can get off to college.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I told him. I said, when the truck started, I said, okay, take me back to the campus. And he's like, no, we can go. And I said, no, we can't. We're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
But not everybody sees that side. That's rare. I think that they would see that right away.
Right, exactly. And like I said, it's a cycle. It's you know, one, we have understood through kind of studies that a lot of times people who are, and this is no way an excuse, but people who are abusers have usually grown up in a home where domestic violence is something that they see every day. So we know that they can be impacted by domestic violence. You know, just in general, it's definitely not, again, something where you may see on the first date, you know, you saw that person kind of lost their cool really easily. But it's, you know, not understanding boundaries a lot of times. You know, if you just say they're maybe real clingy, or you know, you went on the first date on Friday, they want to see you Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you know, Thursday, not respecting, like, hey, I need some space, or, you know, they may overwhelm you with gifts and flowers, and it's like, oh wow, you know, it may be like the constant calling, and you may think, oh, he's just thinking about me, but, you know, those are kind of some initial kind of red flags as well.
Okay, thank you for sharing. That's good. That's really good. Mia, can religion be used as a form of abuse?
Religion can be used as a form of abuse. You know, religion and faith are, we've seen even in scientific studies that they can help people get out of any traumatic experiences that have occurred. But we have seen, especially in the faith-based community, that abusers do use religion, faith. You know, they take just a portion of Bible verses to use against their victims. You know, it says for wives to submit to their husbands, or, when we think about like that, they may twist this version of, yes, men are head of the household, so you're supposed to do everything that the man says. They don't ever go in deep into what those other Bible verses mean, that it says for Jesus to, for the man is supposed to love the wife like Jesus loved the church, and Jesus was not abusing the church.
He died for the church. He gave up his life for the church.
Right. Right. And so we have definitely seen, especially people who had, or whereas, God doesn't like divorce. We used to have a radio show, or I used to do a radio show here where we talked about domestic violence, and we would have pastors that come on, and they, especially male pastors, someone would speak out about and just say, you never want to be unsafe in a home. And I think, especially when people who are deeply connected to their faith or in their religion, you do see where they may be hesitant, or there's always in the back of their mind where, God's not going to forgive me for giving a divorce or leaving, or I'm supposed to work things out, those sort of things. So yes, it has definitely played a part in why sometimes people stay, and people using that again as forms of abuse.
Mia, how can we best help, as pastors' wives and as female pastors, how can we best help women that have been impacted by domestic violence?
I think watching this video is the first step. Educating yourself about the issue of domestic violence, understanding what can you do, what steps your church is willing to take for domestic violence. I think another thing too is just to understand the laws around domestic violence in your area, wherever you are, because someone comes to you about saying that they have been abused, what, as a church, what responsibility do you have? We have a lot of times where, for instance, if we had a victim who had a order of protection against, and it could be your favorite deacon, but if your victim has the order of protection against the world's best deacon, the best deacon got to get out of there. Cannot be in the church. And like I said, there's laws here where I am, but I definitely would check with your individual states or areas that you are. But we've had that happen before where, unfortunately, we've had women who have said that they went to the church because their husband was number 2, lead pastor, the best youth pastor. The church didn't really do anything for them or listen to their concerns. And so it kind of put a bad taste in their mouth about the church, about faith, and kind of where they stood. So I think God definitely calls us to live as best as him, and would Jesus turn his back on us if we had a concern. So I think definitely listening to that person's story, continue to educate yourself, educate those around you as well, provide different opportunities. Provide different opportunities within your church to educate others about what's going on. Again, if it's providing flyers, if it's having, a small luncheon and inviting a survivor or law enforcement officer or domestic violence advocate about what's going on in your community, those are definitely great ways that you can go about providing some sort of resources of support and learning more about domestic violence.
That's so helpful. So Mia, if there is a pastor's wife or a female pastor or deacon's wife or just a woman comes across this video and she is living in domestic violence right now, what words of wisdom do you have for her?
My words of wisdom is definitely you can gauge your situation the best. One thing is, are you right now safe? As best you can. Are you in immediate danger? I think one, to understand that you don't deserve this, and there's many, unfortunately, there's a lot of people who are going through the same situation that you are. So don't think that it's just you. Don't think that you deserve to stay in this situation. Know that you are, that you can be a victim, and later you're going to move to survivor. I think one, educating yourself on helping to design a safety plan. So looking up what are some local resources in your areas and kind of making those small steps to remove yourself from the situation. It's very hard, again, for us to, I think a lot of times too, part of the question is, well, why didn't she just leave? There's, at one point you love this person. If you're married, you made a commitment to this person. I think in just off the top of your head, there maybe you don't work. Maybe there's only one car. Maybe you feel like you have limited resources. Where can you go? A lot of times I think, again, people are like, well, about this, why don't they just leave? Well, if you left, where do you think usually people go to, like a parent's house or a close relative's house? Well, your abuser usually knows that. So that's where they're going to go looking for you the first time as well. So a lot of times people don't want to get others involved in the situation per se, or put anyone else in danger. And so I think, one, just talk to someone on your next step, your next move, and helping to design some sort of safety plan. But just know that you can get out of it.
Okay. Do you think it would be wise for them to maybe go ahead and get a copy of their driver's license, their birth certificate, if they have children, their children's birth certificates, so that if they do need to leave, they've got a copy of that and they're ready to go?
Right. So each person has a different safety plan. When I worked at a domestic violence center, we would have individual safety plans, and those all look different. But I think, sometimes the initial, when you get ready to leave, a lot of people go back because it's like, I can't register my child anywhere because I don't have their information for a new school, or, I don't have a copy of my birth certificate or social security card so I can get into a new apartment or wherever. So I think, again, that's part of those kind of safety plan. And it may be part of, like, for your churches, that you just ask the whoever's going through the situation, hey, why don't you bring your social security card? We'll make a copy of it. Or bring a birth certificate. We'll make a copy and we'll store it here. Or we'll pack a small bag for you. Or is there a secret word we can use? There's a video that's on YouTube where someone that may be impacted by domestic violence, they'll call 911 and they'll say, hi, I want to order a pepperoni pizza. And that's kind of the secret word of, I need help. So, just designing, like, is there a secret word for families? So if you wanted, if you establish with your family, the secret word is go to the beach, or the phrase, go to the beach. So you may say, call a close friend, just say, I was really thinking about going to the beach. And then your friend knows that that's a secret phrase for maybe to call the police, or kind of establish, when I say that phrase, what does that mean? So I think, yes, part of everything that you said, but also really just talking through what does that safety plan look like, and establishing small steps to leave the situation, because 9 times 10 they're not going to change. I think we hope for that, or you have people who hope that person will change. They may think, a lot of times, well, they'll put this guilt trip on you. The abuser put their guilt trip on you. Well, my dad was abusive and I promise I won't do it again. But it's a cycle, and a lot of times they will reoffend.
That was going to be my next question for you, Mia, is what is the chance of that abusive man changing? We say,
Um,
God, all things are possible, and that is a true statement. But I know
mhm.
God will not force somebody to change if they don't want to change.
Right. And a lot of times it's like it is a learned behavior.
Mhm.
It's a control thing. It's not necessarily the physical act. It's this person is going out of their way to control this person or control the situation. You know, a lot of times when you have abusers that have been kind of are pushed against the like pushed against the wall or not not physically, but like if it's a standoff with the police, or when the victim finally wants to leave, a lot of times you see like a murder suicide, but it's the last act of control. And so it's and a lot of times if this person has been in a previous relationship, you can bet you like that the person that they were with before have seen those signs, or it has happened to them before as well. So we have definitely seen where it is a continued pattern based on from relationship to relationship with abusers.
Wow, wow. Well, Mia, I so appreciate your wisdom on this subject, and I love that you are passionate to make a difference in women's lives. Thank you for your time, and any of that information you can send me, and I will put it down below this video where it says show more. I'm also going to
Mm-hmm.
put a number right here for a hotline crisis number for domestic violence. If you, my precious friend, are going through such a difficult time, there is help, there is hope, and we pray that God will help you be able to get free from your situation. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for watching Silently Bleeding, Finding Hope for the Pastor's Wife. I look forward to connecting with you. Feel free to leave me comments down below, and make sure and subscribe. If you want to know every time a new video is coming out, hit the bell. I would be so delighted if you would also hit the like button, and feel free to share this video with anyone you know that this would encourage. Blessings, my friend.